Well, welcome, Power Partners. Hello, hello. This is the informational playground, Star Style. Be the star you are. We're brought to the airwaves under the auspices of Be the Star You Are charity, and we're coming to you on the Voice America Network. This is the Empowerment Channel. I am Cynthia Brian. I'm your host for today. And in today's show, we're going to be discussing storage options as well as the home insurance issues that are going on today. But first of all, the miracle moment is brought to you by Be the Star You Are. You can visit Be the Star You Are at bethestaryouare.org. It's from T.S. Eliot. Only those who dare to go too far can possibly find out how far one can go. I like it. Well, May is Women's Health Month, so it's a time to shine a light on all the unique health needs of women and to recognize the power of prevention, education, and early detection when it comes to cancers, especially breast cancer. It's also a time to elevate the vital role that research plays in shaping a healthier future for women across the country. For several years, I have been involved in something called the Wisdom Study, which is a study for women's breast health, and it's just been fantastic. So, if you have never had cancer and you are 30 or older, it's all free. Go to thewisdomstudy.org and you'll be participating in the research, and you really help drive discoveries that lead for better treatments, more inclusive data, and healthcare that truly reflects the needs and experiences of all women. So, whether it's studying breast health or reproductive health or mental health, your involvement really matters and it can make a lasting impact for generations to come. So, this month, the Wisdom Study is celebrating the progress that they've made and reaffirming their commitment to the work ahead. And I really believe in it. Through awareness and action, we can really transform the health of women. What I like is they follow you, they give you recommendations of mammograms, they do a testing to see if you have the genes for cancer, and everything is free. So just check it out. I think that you might really like it. Before I get into the storage, I just wanted to say that the Be the Star You Are newsletter went out this week. And with corruption, chaos, global wars, political instability, repressive policies and politics, and the rising autocratic governments, people have the right to be frightened and frustrated. Yet, amid the darkness, that light appears, as we all witnessed on Thursday, May 8th of 2025, from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel. White smoke billowed, indicating that the papal conclave had elected a new pope. And in a historic and hopeful moment, it was an American that was elected as the 267th head of the Catholic Church. Cardinal Robert Prevost, now Pope Leo XIV, spent much of his career as a missionary in South America, and he's going to be leading the 1.4 billion Catholics and be a pontiff for all the global stage. I mean, advocating for peace, openness, change, and inclusion for everyone, not just for Catholics. His first remarks, which he spoke in Italian, were, "We have to seek together to be a missionary church, a church that builds bridges and dialogue." And he called on people to show our charity to others and to be in dialogue with love. And I was just so thrilled, as I think, most people here in the United States, because I never, ever in my wildest dreams thought there would be an American Pope. I mean, it was when I was growing up, they were always Italian. And then, of course, we had a Polish Pope, and then we had our Argentinian Pope Francis, who everyone really loved. And I was really lucky to, when I was a teenager, to have an audience with a pope who is now a saint. But it's exciting to find out that we had an American, and I like the idea of building bridges of peace and inclusion in a dialogue of love, and we have the power to do this together. Now, for the 25 years that Be the Star You Are has been serving others, I have been a big proponent of supporting youth leaders because I believe it's the young people of today who will be the change that the world needs to build the bridges. We have volunteers from every continent except Antarctica. I probably should work on that. But these volunteers provide virtual services to Be the Star You Are that also help them excel and succeed in their personal endeavors. So through collaboration, we create connection, a world youth connection. So I like the idea of climbing those stairs together to open the window with faith, hope, and love, because we can face this challenge, the madness and the sadness, and build bridges of peace and inclusion. So I'd like to again say congratulations and blessings to our new American Pope, Leo the 14th, with his humility, his gentleness, and his warmth. I think he will really honor his Augustinian community, the USA, and be an example of unity for the billions of people around the world, regardless of religious belief. So, habemus papam. And if you'd like to read the newsletter, you can go to bethestaryouare.org and just click on the newsletter, and you can have much more information there of what was in the newsletter, as well as an address from him. Now, this is changing the topic, going to talk about storage, because how many people have storage units? And what ends up happening is you put all this stuff in it and you kind of forget about it. And maybe it's time to clean it out, use it or lose it. That's kind of the question. Do we keep it? Do we not keep it? It's a dilemma that people who have a storage unit have faced with a lifetime of accumulated belongings. Sometimes we start in college, we put the things away for the summer and then we take them out. But then sometimes as we move, we put things in storage. But when the stuff is spilled outside your living space and you've put your stuff into a storage unit, we have to really take a hard look. Now, according to move.org, the average storage unit in the United States costs about $180 per month, and that's just for a small one. That's more than $2,000 a year you could save by just decluttering. And when you add it up over time, it really is a lot of money. Now, another issue with renting a storage unit or even storing possessions, in a basement or an attic or in a garage is that out of sight is out of mind. And then you're more likely to hang on to stuff you don't need when you don't see it in your regular living space. So eventually you, or hopefully you don't die, but maybe you do, and your heirs, they have to deal with it. So, what are some ideas that you could do? Well, let's talk about it. First of all, furniture. Don't hang on to furniture indefinitely, thinking that somebody might need it one day. Obviously, if it's in a storage unit, nobody is using it. And if they have no room for it now, you let them pay for storage if somebody says they want it. A good example of that is I know that when I moved out of my office building, my daughter said she wanted a cabinet and she wanted some chairs. Well, that cabinet and the chairs, 2 years now, and they're still in my garage. So now I have to deal with it. So, if what I also find is a lot of people have furniture and then they think their kids are going to want it. But unfortunately, you have to ask them and see what they want now, because usually, they're not going to want it. And if they don't want it, you should either give it away, donate it, or put it to a consignment. But if nobody wants it, let it go. Some vintage furniture, especially, the ever popular right now, it's that mid-century modern. They might fetch a nice price at a consignment shop or even in a private sale. But we can't fall victim to sentimentality. I mean, if it's really extra special, why isn't it in your house? Now, I was one of these people that I really liked vintage stuff. And so I like to refinish it and refurnish it. And that was something that was special to me. Things that my parents or grandparents had, I did want them and I remade them and reupholstered them and I love it. But I find that like my kids don't want to do that and most young kids don't want to do it. So the same thing with sports equipment. If the gear is for a sport you're currently engaged in, like, you go skiing, then you want to store it, right? But if it's a bike or something that you spent a lot of money on, maybe you spent $2,000 on it, but you don't ride it anymore, and you keep thinking, I might ride it, probably you're not going to ride it. So sell it or let it go. Photos. Now, this is a really a big issue for everybody. Most likely, theirs are the only things that matter in your life besides your family. And they take an inordinate amount of time, to put in scrapbooks and stuff. And people just don't seem to be printing them out anymore. I like to just make a book of a couple of times a year, maybe of Shutterfly. Um, I download them. I have one of those photo, what are they called? Mine's Nix Play. It's like a thing that you can upload and then they change the pictures. It's a frame, that's what it is. And I really like that. But if you inherited boxes and boxes of photos or slides, if you're not going to go through them, then maybe you want to get rid of them. If you can take them to a digital place and have them digitized, that would be good, or you want to print them out. But what else are you going to do? How about old record albums and CDs? If you can get music online, why are you keeping it? That's probably it. However, the vinyl is back and they are really in demand. So if you still have vinyl, a record store might buy those. I still like having CDs, and I did give my whole vinyl collection to my kids, and they created a very special place in their home, and they love it. And it's a valuable collection. Now, what about old technology? Now, it is common to store old computers, stereo equipment, movie projectors, and so on. Is there a point in keeping it? That's the thing. If you feel you're going to use it, or you do have all the stuff to do it, then that's great. If you want to set it up for a family viewing during a get together, it could be totally fun. But you have to determine whether it's all worth storing. And kids' artwork. It can be difficult to part with this. I really loved framing a lot of my kids' artwork, and I think that the kids' artwork is just really great. But maybe you want to just keep a couple of the great ones, take pictures of the other ones, and then maybe discard it. What about luggage? This is a very common storage item, but you can reduce the number of suitcases you store if you keep the sizes you'd use on a longer trip and a shorter trip. So, a couple of suitcases. But what I have done with my older suitcases, and I like it a lot, is because I have patio furniture and I have it stored in a shed, and I don't like the pads and the pillows and all of that to get dirty, dusty, or even get eaten by a mouse or something. So all old luggage that maybe isn't in perfect shape, I put it in the shed and I put my pillows and stuff in it. That worked out really great. So if you have another use for it, that is great. What about all those childhood trophies? Well, my kids' childhood trophies are still on a shelf high up in their room, but probably nobody's going to want it. So you could offer it, tell your kids, ask them if they want it, but they might laugh at you. Now, kids' toys and clothes. I really like the idea. When my kids were young, I only bought them wooden or metal toys. So I was a big proponent, no plastic in the house. I just don't like plastic, so I didn't do it. And as a result, they had not a lot of toys, but they had good toys. I saved them. The Tonka trucks, they're really the good metal. So my son and daughter took all their things, Brio, which was a wooden train set. And it's interesting because now their kids are playing with these toys and loving it. And I have it keep a closet with the toys for when my grandkids come over, and they absolutely go crazy over all these toys because they're nothing new. So they don't, they don't get to see them all the time. So it's really exciting. So that's something that you have to decide what you want to do. You can keep the stuff to a minimum, maybe keep a couple of bins. You know, I know that as a parent, we always make assumptions of what our family is going to want or not want. And toy trends do come and go, but things that might be worth keeping are special items. So, like my dad made me my desk when I was a little girl, and he also made me like this a doll, not a doll house, but a place to store all the doll clothes. I still have those. I painted them, and they're treasures to me. So you have to decide what's a treasure and what's not. Family heirlooms are another thing because we keep items out of a sense of obligation, but you don't want to have that sense of obligation. You might be wasting your space holding on to things, again, that your family are not going to want. So if it's not valuable to you, if you're willing to put it somewhere that's not in your home, maybe you don't want to just put it in a storage unit because it's going to cost you all that money. And then how about like crafting supplies? If you plan to use them, put them in a clear bin and take it into your house, or put it maybe in your garage or wherever you're going to use it. And, people will say, well, those are my grandmother's knitting needles. But if they really are special to you, you want to keep them. But if they're, just taking up space, think about it again. I like musical instruments. I think these are valuable, and they might be only valuable for sentimental reasons. So they may be not valuable, but they might be more susceptible to damage if the environment isn't controlled. So maybe a storage unit isn't the best place to do it. But if you have musical instruments, you're not playing them, you want to get rid of them, pass them along to someone who can use it. A school or a preschool, they would always love to have things like this. The same with the crafting supplies, art supplies. I know when I decided I wasn't going to do interior design anymore and I was closing off this part of my office, I went through all of my fabrics and all of my wallpapers and all of my samples and rugs and all this and donated them to art schools and to a couple of preschools, their art programs. They were thrilled because they can do all kinds of cool crafts with it. The one last thing that I'll talk about is China. That's a hard one. I know when I was getting married, that was the gift that was always on a register. You had to have fine china. These days, young people don't care about fine china. I just use mine all the time because I just believe in using everything. I don't believe saving, for that special occasion. But there was that time when everybody got married, everybody got china, and then nobody used it except for at Christmas or maybe Easter or a birthday. So find out if anybody in the family wants it. So I know, like when my mom died, I did love her china, and I got it. And then my daughter loved it because she didn't get china when she got married, and so she has it. So that's really nice because it is sentimental, and it's kept in the family. But if you don't want it and you just maybe want a piece or something, just keep a bowl or a plate. Well, that's it for this segment of Star Style Be the Star You Are. We'll come back in after a short break, and we're going to talk about fire insurance. How much do you need? I hope you're not one of the people who had their fire home insurance canceled. Mine was canceled, and it was crazy trying to get new one. You're listening to Cynthia Brian. This is Star Style. Be the Star You Are. We'll be right back. Well, thank you for staying with me here on Star Style. Be the Star You Are. I am Cynthia Brian, and we are coming to you on the Voice America Network. This segment is about fire insurance and how much you need the fire insurance, what is for, your home or your rental. And this is it's a tough one. More than 16,000 structures were destroyed in the recent Los Angeles fire, the wildfires, which were so horrible. It upended thousands of lives and it left millions of homeowners wondering anywhere, how much fire insurance do I need? And if you're in California, can you even get it? Homeowners generally do not need to purchase separate fire insurance coverage, unlike damage by earthquake and floods, because damage caused by fire, including wildfires, is normally covered by your standard homeowners insurance policy. However, in California, so many policies have been canceled because the zones have been remapped, and you could be in what's called a red zone or a fire zone. That's what just happened to our home this last year. And it's really frustrating because I don't feel like we're in a fire zone, but I know that a fire can happen anyway. But what that meant is that I had to hunt for homeowners insurance. And it was really hard to find. It took me almost 2 months. I ended up having to go with what's called the FAIR plan in California, which is not so fair. It's very expensive. It only covers fire. It doesn't cover if you have a water leak or theft or any of that. So you have to get that policy, which is expensive. Then you've got to get a supplemental policy, which is also expensive, which will cover up to a certain amount for water damage, etc. So then you also got to get a separate umbrella policy. And it was very interesting how difficult this was to get because some places they want you to bundle your cars, but then they wouldn't give you home insurance. I tell you, it was a nightmare. So I'm hoping that this can be straightened out pretty soon. Uh, but what my advice then is to talk to your insurance broker and find out what homeowners and renters in your area need to know and what's coming up. Because homeowners tend to assume that their insurance is going to cover the cost of rebuilding following a disaster because that's why you have insurance. But that's not the case. You have to look very, very carefully at your policy to see what kind of policy you have. For example, in the Boulder, Colorado fire that was of 2021, so many people, 74%, did not have enough insurance to cover their rebuild costs. And 36% were so severely underinsured that their insurance covered less than 75% of their costs. So approximately 1/3 of those who lost their homes still have not rebuilt, and it's, 4 years later. So underinsurance is not uncommon, and that's why you really do want to talk to your homeowner's insurance company and find out. And also look around because different companies are different, and there are brokers, and then there are ones that only offer for, one particular firm. And construction costs increase sharply following a major disaster. So right now, to rebuild anything in California is expensive. When thousands of people lose their homes in an area at the same time, think about the tornadoes in the Midwest, the hurricanes on the East Coast. The demand for home builders and building materials just skyrockets and it pushes prices above their normal levels. So low coverage limits and high deductibles conspire to leave homeowners shouldering an unexpectedly large slice of the cost of, regrouping and rebuilding. And insurers have these very sophisticated digital tools that allow them to accurately estimate how much it will cost to rebuild a home, excluding, post-disaster construction cost price spikes, like, when you have a disaster, obviously. But so many homeowners buy policies that leave them with a lower coverage limit than they need. And maybe the reason for this is that some insurers and insurance agents might quote potential customers lower coverage limits, higher deductibles that are prudent to make the coverage seem more affordable than the competition. So you've got to be really aware of what it is that you're buying. And homeowners simply have to not just pick the lowest premiums. You got to shop for insurance and look at all the details. So, actual cash value, which is called ACV coverage, pays only the depreciated value of items lost or damaged rather than their full replacement costs. And a lot of policies have that for damaged or destroyed possessions. What to do when you get quotes on homeowners insurance policies, compare policy limits as well as the premiums. And if there are substantial differences between the amount of coverage that various insurers recommend, avoid the low end bidders and ask the insurers that recommend relatively low coverage whether those limits can be increased. Or contact a well-established local contractor and request a rough cost to estimate, what it would cost to rebuild your home. And you want to reduce the odds that your insurance will be insufficient because you could also pay an insurer extra for what's called extended replacement cost coverage. And that will pay a certain amount more than the policy's usual coverage limit to rebuild. But better yet, you want guaranteed replacement cost coverage, and that will pay as much as necessary to rebuild, and that leaves the policyholder just to pay the deductible. So you really want the guaranteed replacement cost coverage. So the cost and availability of these policy add-ons vary, and most insurers no longer offer that guaranteed coverage, but ask for it. Also, ask your insurer about any fire prevention discounts. We did everything here. We hardened everything off. It's not anymore just having fire extinguishers, but you have to have sprinkler systems and fire resistant roofs and fire resistant siding and trees trimmed to a certain amount. But some of them will give discounts. They're kind of modest, but insurers are trying to improve on them. But a warning, homeowners in wildfire prone regions sometimes are offered insurance that doesn't include any fire coverage. So those aren't standard homeowners insurance policy. And again, that's usually offered, as I told you at the beginning, that I had to get, which is called a fair access to insurance requirement. It's called a FAIR plan, but it provides the necessary fire insurance, but that's all it does, only fire. Now, you do need to have coverage of your contents and other expenses. And insurance companies are increasingly making homeowners jump through hoops before providing compensation for possessions damaged or destroyed in covered events. So it's not uncommon for homeowners to be handed forms following a fire and told to document every single item. Um, they're well aware that homeowners will be unable to do this after virtually everything they own has been reduced to ash. So, what can you do? Do it now. Take a smartphone video camera and create a narrated tour of all your possessions. Walk through your room, every room of your house, even the basement, the attic, whatever. Film every item, verbally describe it. Open the cabinets, open the closets, open the drawers to show what's inside. And then save this video, in the cloud or somewhere outside your home. Email it to yourself or a loved one, or store it on a remote server, for example. Also, it's worth noting if your car is destroyed in a fire, it will not be covered by your homeowner's insurance, even if it's parked in the garage, because fire damage to a parked car is covered by comprehensive insurance on an auto insurance policy. So there's so much to learn. And most homeowners insurance will help pay for a little bit of living expenses like a hotel or restaurant, but that coverage has limits. So you may want to review the additional living expenses section of your policy. And then renter's insurance typically covers fire damage to the policyholder's possession, and it usually includes some coverage for additional living expenses, but you do have to check it out. And then, as I said, a lot of people who are living in fire zones that have now been determined are being canceled. So, or they're being non-renewed. And then you're going to find that there's a lot of insurance companies that are not going to cover you. So that's a scary thing, and you have to end up purchasing what is called a DIC coverage from a private insurer to have anything that's going to approach the overall protection that a standard homeowner policy. So, like I had to do a fair plan, a DIC coverage, a liability, and an umbrella policy. So, and it's all very expensive. So just remember, if you have a mortgage, lenders are likely um, going to require that you have coverage before you're going to be able to get a loan. You won't be able to buy a house. So think carefully about it. So this is, there's a lot going on with insurance. I hope that you have adequate insurance and that you don't get canceled or non-renewed. So make sure that you take the time to check with an insurance agent, because as you can see with climate change and global warming, disasters are happening on a more frequent basis. My heart goes out to all the tornado victims now in the Midwest, the middle of America. It just has just rampaged through so many states. And these looked like gorgeous homes that were just, torn to the ground. And I don't know how many people have died now, but this is awful. So, Be the Star You Are will be working in more disaster relief. That's our show for today. Thanks for being great listeners and tuning in with me every week. I am Cynthia Brian. I hope that I can help you change your life, make your dreams come true, and help you have a better lifestyle. For more information about Star Style Productions or to purchase any of my books, visit cynthiabrian.com. That's Brian with an I. To get involved with Be the Star You Are charity or to find out how you can help with disaster relief, visit bethestaryouare.org. My aim is always to encourage, inspire, inform, amuse, and motivate. See beyond your physical being. Know you already are the star you dreamed of becoming. Cherish the past, dream of the future, and celebrate every moment of your life. And read a book this week, because it is like a garden in your pocket. And until we are together next week, be inclusive, tell the truth, live with integrity, embrace cultures, love unconditionally, encourage others, be generous, read, lead, succeed, communicate, collaborate, innovate, and again, remember that love always wins and kindness always prevails, but it's smiles that'll keep us happy. I am Cynthia Brian for Star Style. I thank you and encourage you to be your unapologetically authentic self. Go out